Hi everyone, welcome back. We'll be moving on to the next sphere today. So we'll be talking about the atmosphere. So if we remember, this is the layer surrounding the Earth. All right, so let's get started with our usual question. Have you ever climbed a mountain? Take a few minutes to discuss that, share your stories. Particularly what you noticed as you climbed the mountain. So go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so if you have climbed a mountain, I'm hoping that somebody said that the air got thinner as they got to the top, which is true. If you get up a high enough mountain, you will notice a difference in the air quality, and that's because there's less oxygen as you go higher and higher up in the atmosphere. So we often say that it becomes thinner, and this is true. So let's get started. Our essential questions today is, what is the atmosphere? So what is it? What's it made out of? And what is the greenhouse effect? Your lesson objective, what you need to be able to do by the end of today is, I can explain the greenhouse effect. You need to be able to explain what this is and what it does for our planet. So what is the atmosphere made of? So it's made up of 21% oxygen and 78% nitrogen. There's other gases, but they're so small in quantity that we don't talk about them too much. Mostly oxygen and nitrogen, a tiny, tiny bit of other stuff. This mixture is what we call air. Air is a mixture of gases, especially oxygen and nitrogen, that makes up the atmosphere. So you can think of the atmosphere as being made up of air. What's air? A mixture of gases, in particular oxygen and nitrogen. So, I'm going to ask you, is air a homogeneous or heterogeneous mixture? And the answer is that it is homogeneous. It looks as though the air is made of one thing, although we know that it has many different particles in it. Alright, so the atmosphere is the layer of air surrounding the Earth. This we just learned. This layer of gases are essential to life on our planet. Our atmosphere is actually what makes Earth so special when we think about all the other planets where there's not life. Our atmosphere plays a big part in that. So they act as a screen. These gases protect us from the sun's rays, so things like UV. They keep the climate in check by holding in heat. So they're going to keep in heat, keep us warm. They include oxygen, which is necessary for cellular respiration, so for our cells to live, and carbon dioxide, which is necessary for photosynthesis in plants. And we'll see how those two things are really closely related when we discuss the next sphere. So now we talk about the greenhouse effect. Greenhouse gases have always existed around our planet. So they are mostly water vapor, carbon dioxide, CO2, methane, chemical name CH4, and nitrous oxide, which we write as NO2. These gases act kind of like a roof over the Earth, so they trap some of the sun's heat in the atmosphere. You can also think of it like as a blanket. So these atmospheric gases act as a blanket around the Earth, which is good in the sense that it keeps our climate in check. As you'll see, without these gases, the average temperature of the Earth would be negative 18 degrees. So without our atmosphere, Earth would be really, really, really cold. Okay, so another little diagram about our greenhouse effect. So greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide are invisible to light, letting sunlight pass through our atmosphere and warm the Earth. So sunlight's coming in, that's what we see here. Some of it is bouncing back. However, greenhouse gases acting like a blanket trap some of the Earth's heat as it escapes back out to space. So it comes in from the sun, gets bounced back, a lot of it, some of it stays in. This burning of fossil fuels, so here we see an interaction between the lithosphere and the atmosphere. So burning our fossil fuels adds extra greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. And these greenhouse gases trap more heat. As you see over here, we have more heat being kept in the atmosphere and less going back out to space. This is causing global warming, or climate change, is what we call it now. So our greenhouse effect is basically the atmospheric gases trapping some of the Earth's heat, which is normal, that always happened, but now humans have kind of tipped it into uncharted territory by releasing so many fossil fuels and CO2 into the atmosphere. So this is kind of, I don't know, think of it as like putting on an extra blanket, right? So the Earth is getting warmer than it used to be. So for thousands of years, the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere remained the same. Okay, over the last century, so in the last 100 years, the combustion of fossil fuels have released enormous amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere. Here are all kinds of different ways that we release CO2. So obviously our lithosphere, oil and gas engines, and all the other factory kind of stuff we do. Also CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons. So any kind of time you use aerosol, you're actually releasing greenhouse gases. Deforestation, getting rid of trees, and often that results in some kind of burning too, releases CO2, but also getting rid of the trees takes away some of the planet's ability to absorb carbon dioxide. So overall, we're doing lots of different things that are contributing to this. The surplus, so the extra CO2 builds up in the atmosphere, which keeps a lot more of the infrared rays emitted by the Earth. So this phenomenon is the cause of climate change and of changes in things like precipitation, so the amount of rain, the wind, and other parts of our climate. So we used to call it global warming, and people thought of it as an overall, just the effect would be warming. That's not really the case. So colder places are going to get colder. We're going to see more extreme weather as climate change continues. So here's what you need to be able to do now that we've discussed the atmosphere. Describe what the atmosphere is and what it is made out of. Can you do that? And can you explain what the greenhouse effect is? Two things. And that's the end of today's lesson, so I will see you all next time.